oh cool, I got 6 more points towards my final grade. I wanted to give them the freedom to fail at assignments without them perceiving that there were these serious grave consequences to the fact that they failed or didn't perform up to spec, right? When I'm playing video games, if I'm playing Portal, right, and I just can't get through the hole the right way, I haven't positioned it correctly, I don't say, oh, that's it, I give up, I failed, I learn from that mistake, right? And then I go and I try it again, I reposition it. So that failure is a really important part of the educational process of learning, but it's something that we tend to have stigmatized, I think, in our country, particularly for students of this age who feel they need to be on the dean's list and they need to get certain grades to maintain their scholarship so that they can go to Harvard Law School, so that they can then come on the Supreme Court, and whatever, right? Just learn, right? And enjoy learning, right? So when you're thinking about gamifying your syllabus, there's lots of different ways to do it. I grew up playing role-playing games, so my sense of games is heavily determined by that model. And what I did is, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to come up here because I don't have a clicker, is basically,
Sorry, the presentation is still.
Oh, the presentation is still on there.
So that you're.
I don't know how to get this. I made a model. First I'm going to sort of describe this model for you. There were no required assignments for this first year seminar writing class that students had to do, right? You don't want to do any writing for this class? Don't do any writing for this class. You won't earn any points, you'll fail, but that is your choice, right? That is entirely up to you, right? If I'm playing, Lord of the Rings online, I don't have to do any of the quests. I could just wander around all day. I'd stay a level 0 character, level 1 character, and that's fine, right, for certain people. Instead, they had opportunities or tasks or quests that they had to do. So I designed them. And here is, in response to your question, or some other individual's question, there were 12 weeks out of the semester during which they could undertake a quest, right, or an opportunity, an assignment. They could do some writing. And they could only turn assignments in on those weeks. And you could only turn in 1 assignment each week. So you cannot, go all semester and do nothing, and then at the end of the semester with 2 weeks to go, in those 2 weeks left, turn in 5 assignments on one and 6 assignments on another. You could turn in 2 more assignments at the end, 1 each week, and that's it, right? And so you have to explain all of this to them. And that was because I knew, right, that I would be inundated with assignments at the end of the semester. So thinking about this mechanic ahead of time, trying to do that. I also, in the second semester, there is a research component. So I did have 1 required assignment in the second semester that they had to do, and I assigned it a certain number of points, the equivalent of 1 of these. Now, as we know, in different kinds of games, the tasks get harder progressively, right? There are some things that are easy to do and overcome. There are some obstacles that are more difficult to overcome. So I had to think about and develop different levels of quests, as it were, right? So level 1, you'll notice, are all in green, although it doesn't look like that up there, right? Each level 1 assignment was worth 10 points. And these are fairly basic, easy, simple writing assignments, 400 to 500 words. So I was looking, almost about 2 pages, right? Double spaced there. They should be fairly easy for most students to do. And you don't earn 10 points by doing it. You can earn up to 10 points by submitting that, right? Next, you get level 2, a little bit more complicated, a little bit more work. That's involved. So a greater risk, but potentially greater payoff. After that, there's also level 3. It goes up to level 4. And so with each of these assignments, right, that they turn in each week, and they can choose to do any of the assignments during any of the weeks, right? There's no stipulation you must do a 1 and 2 before this. There are some rules that I say you can't do, let me see what they are. Level 1 and 2 objectives can be repeated as often as they like because they're so low low key. Level 3 and level 4 objectives, you can complete no more than twice, right? So I don't want them writing, say, 5 book reviews. You could do 2 book reviews, 2 craft analysis, 2 creative responses, but you could do a maximum of 2 each of those. Right? And again, I've tried to vary the kinds of assignments, writing assignments that they can do in order to earn points, right? Not every kid wants to write a traditional essay. Not every kid has the skills to do that kind of traditional essay. Not every kid is going to go into a field, right? A major where they're going to have to write a kind of literary critical essay. That is the sort of standard in mind. So for those that don't want to do that, they can still earn points another way. For those that want to do that, the option is there. I also had something, so any questions so far?
Is it possible to earn an A without doing the level 4?
Yes, it is. You've got 12, so if you turn in 12 level 1 assignments, say you get 10 points on all of them, right? You've got 120 points, there's your A. Yes, you can earn over 100 points, right? 90 to 100 is an A, 80, I just use the standard thing. It's as simple as that. So here, right, you don't have to worry about me penalizing you. You just earn your grade. Just write your way to the grade that you want. Level your grade up as the semester goes along. Now you can write, 2 book reviews because we're reading lots of different authors. You can't write 2 book reviews on the same book, right? So they've got this, this constellation of authors, writers that we're reading, this constellation of different types of writing that they can choose to do, and then they mix and match those different things in different ways. Let's see, what else are the rules here? Only once a week. I maintained a leaderboard for this where they all had their name anonymously. They had to come up with like a gamer name in some sense, a handle, I think that's what gamers call it.
Avatar.
Yeah, an avatar handles. Because I didn't want everybody knowing what everyone's score was, but this was to sort of encourage them and create this sense of competition, rivalry, but also I offered a reward for the person who accrued the most points at the end of the semester, which was like a poster that was signed by all of the writers who actually came.
Do you run into privacy issues? Used to they give our grade with the student number there, and we can't do that anymore. So I'm wondering if we're going to run afoul of somebody.
Nobody ever complained about it, even those kids who really
me
sucked.
neither.
And got really, we're doing really poorly because nobody knew who they were.
Yeah, but I had a guy named Daniel Hammer, and he picked Sledgehammer for.
Well, he's,
So I use that as a joke.
Yeah, that's his.
Don't pick.
Technically, it's still it's a violation of FERPA, but the good thing is there's no remedy built into the law, so whatever.
They're also volunteering it, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't
right.
matter.
I mean,
And they wanted to know how they were doing, right? Because they're not good at keeping track of their own numbers, which is so ridiculous. It's like, I give you the paper back, write it down, like, and then keep it in the front of your notebook for the class, how many points you've earned, but they don't.
So with this structure, as you've gotten assignments turned in over the semester, like what distribution do you find with like students actually attempting your level 3 and level 4 activities as opposed to doing your minimum requirements?
What kind of grade distribution did you get?
Oh, they all do pretty well simply because they can, get as much as they want.
So it's the same document, but a different tab. So, yeah, so it's open.
Sorry, I'm just not looking again. So, here we go. You can see in this semester, let me scroll it up a little bit further. This semester, fall 2015, and these are the same students that continued through, right? It's a year-long sequence, right? But sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. They could do 12 assignments maximum, right? On average, they did 7.5 writing assignments, on average. Most of them were level 1 and level 2, right? There, that's 38 plus 41. I'm an English professor, somebody help me. 79%, those lower level ones. And that stayed fairly consistent throughout the year for this group. The next semester, 11 maximum assignments because there was also the required research assignment that I had that's not included in that. And you can see like one kid only did 5 assignments, one did 6, but both of them fall in there. Looks like, you know, they got a little bit used to doing fewer assignments. But here we have people doing level 4s, which never happened in that semester. So you can really, it's interesting tracking the way they change their behaviors. I've also sort of looked at, I'm not sure if I have it here, when they're doing the assignments, right? There's always, in the beginning of the semester, you get a whole bunch, and then sort of slows down. And then they realize, oh shit, there's only 3 or 4 weeks left in the semester, and there's a big wave of assignments come in again when they realize that they're, right, they've still only got 52 points, and there's not a lot of time left, so they start up again. But the distinction between, right, what the freshmen, first years are doing, and down here, this was the upper division literature class, which I offered, which was the same exact format, right? I'm doing something a little bit differently in my responses, which I'll talk about briefly, right? They did fewer assignments in total, but a lot more, right, of the upper level 3 and level 4 assignments, which is what I would have anticipated ahead of time, thinking, okay, now this is an upper division level course for English majors, right? They're gonna feel more comfortable doing some of these larger tasks, and that really was the case. So now that there were also some...
Can I ask a quick question, dovetails on that? So I'm not saying that this is what I like, but you know, I'm in California, we're facing the student learning outcome push. I assume most states are facing that, right? So how do you push back against an administrator who says you're boiling learning down even more now to mere accumulation of points?
I would say that it's the points are there to incentivize them. This gives them, you know, my kid is in a Montessori school. It's part of a public education here, IPS. But he has the freedom to pursue the things that he's interested in the way that he's interested in them. And I've seen how that really helps his learning. That freedom, the ability to choose, that's what I'm offering here. This isn't, for some students it's about the points. And I think when I talk about the responses, this might answer that question. But really, they are getting to write the kind of writing that they feel excited about. They get to write on the authors they want to write. They don't have to write on any author whose work they didn't really like. So when they are completing the assignments, they're completing assignments that they feel more invested in than just saying, all right, you all have to write a literary critical essay on Kant.
No one wants to do that.
So I think there is a sense that, you know, the fact that they even believe they have choice, and they do, motivates them a little bit more than otherwise, right? And yeah, I mean, we give grades in the end.
Yeah,
ultimately.
right.
You can always tie each specific activity to the SLO that it goes with too, and just say, well,
Yeah.
here's how this activity
Yeah.
facilitates this SLO.
Have you talked to his classes before you gamified? What, can you compare the quality of essays and so forth before and after? Do you feel like that this better, you know, you get more learning?
I can't compare the quality of essays because the writing is slightly different. They have a greater variety of writing here. I think they understand audience a lot better now here. Their sentence level, right? Writing is much more compelling because that's often what I'll have to talk about in class. I see a lot of mistakes with that are common to the different forms of writing. I think their willingness to learn, their willingness to fail, and their more global sense of what it means to be a writer is much more advanced than it was before. I can't say that they could write a 5-page college essay better than before, when that was kind of the only thing that I taught them in there. But that's just bullshit, a 5-page college essay. We all know that, right? How many of you have written a 5-page essay like that since you have graduated from college? 1, 2
Yeah,
and a half. But not everybody in this room, right? It's a minority. I think it teaches us the importance of that essay is the skills that it teaches you. And if we can teach them those skills in a different manner, right, that they can then apply if they ever have to do that, great. You know, that's.
Have you?
She had a question.
Yes, that's
Yeah, so maybe you've kind of circled this, but could you summarize, like, what do you think their grade at the end of the class represents? And is the student with a better grade better at, or did they do more of X?
Let's see what the things I learned from students. First, can I just say something about the labor involved? Because those of you who say, "Oh, this sounds pretty cool," many of you may not say that. It's a lot more work. Oh my God, right? I know James has sort of adapted and adopted this afterwards. Stuart Glennon, who teaches logic, Introduction to Logic, has adopted this. Also, Chris Bungard in Classics is adapting this sort of way. It takes a lot of work ahead of time, right? Because you have to design a system for your particular class as well as your style of teaching that's going to work for you. You need to design a variety of assignments and weight them appropriately. The first time I taught this, like, everybody had over 100 points. I was giving too many points per assignment, so I ratcheted it down, right? The next time that I taught it, it was like, okay, this is just too easy for the students. They didn't do enough writing. And you need to provide rubrics and models for all of these different assignments, right, ahead of time, so they know what the expectations are. So it's a lot of work. And it can be more work throughout the semester as well, right? Never was there a week when I got an assignment from every single student in the classes, but never was there a week that I did not get 3 or 4. So throughout that entire semester, I am constantly grading, and overall, I would say I ended up grading a significantly larger number of pages total than I would have in the traditional classroom, which means, conversely, that the students wrote more pages than they would have in the traditional classroom. And we learn by doing. That's one of the most important things, right? And what I like about this model is it encourages them to write regularly over the course of the semester, rather than we've got, right, an essay in the middle of the class and an essay at the end of the class. And there are ways where, right, some of these assignments link and they build on one another, so that if students want to develop a writing project across the semester, they can do that. So here are some of the things that I learned which might address those questions more. The students, the positives, they enjoyed working at their own pace. They could schedule their workload around their other classes, and I found that that was really, really big for them, right? They often have like this cluster of assignments due, and on those weeks, they didn't write for my class, and they felt, thank heavens I don't have to do something for Goldsmith's class as well. And then at other moments, they were able to put more energy into this. And I think we as educators need to be aware of that much more than we are. And it's so hard to do, because we have students from so many different backgrounds taking so many different classes. It's not like we can call up all of our colleagues and say, hey, when are you, and when are you, and when are you, and when are you have major assignments due? It doesn't happen. It was flexible. They got to write about what they wanted to write about. The variety allowed me to explore and make connections, gave me different ways to think about the material. There was beneficial feedback, a sustained dialogue with the instructor about my writing. And so this is another thing, because this was a writing class, I did not spend a lot of time in class talking about writing. I think I had 2 sessions, one on style, right, and how to write a sentence, because they still need to learn how to write a sentence grammatically. And what about storytelling and audience, and that all of the writing that you're doing here is a form of storytelling. Right? And what does it mean to tell a story? And so we had a session on that, and a lot of the students found that really helpful. But what it means is that the majority of my instruction in writing comes in written feedback, which means I'm writing a lot more than I would have in classes where I'm teaching principles of writing in the class, right? And then they respond by writing an essay.
So, do you use rubrics to sort of help guide them, like this is an excellent essay because it matches these
I'll say that. Again, I don't get very many level 4 essays that I have to do that, and typically those only come in at the end of the semester when the students are desperate to get as many points as they can. And so I am less apt to write significant amount of commentary on those in the last week because I know they're not really reading them and wanting to learn, they just want the points. But early on, yeah, I sort of say this is fabulous, for a book review. I love the way that you have, illuminated the nature of the character's relationship to this sort of social cluster or whatnot, and try and, I don't give them rubrics per se, but models. If you look at,
The other tab there, yeah, that one.
So if we go back to, say, a book review, right? It kind of tells them what they're expected to do. The aim of a book review is to explicate and offer an assessment of the work, right? Not just describe it, but you have to evaluate. Does it succeed or fail? What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? Not, Amazon, but look at these 2 sites. And I will print out and give them a copy of a couple of reviews that I think are particularly good as well. And then I list here what, one, the different elements that there need to be in a review. Now, how they choose to articulate those elements is up to them, and that's,
So if you get an asshole student that's like, well, you gave me a 15 on this, where'd those 5 points go? You can point to, well, I got 1 here, 2 there. Okay.
I've never had anybody say that, no. Again, I've only taught four sessions of this, but the students are just happy, right? They see it as not, I've lost points, but I have gotten this many points, and my grade is now up to this, up to this, up to this. It's that model.
Got it.
Can you talk more about that frame? Because in your assignments, it clearly says that craft analysis is 20 points. And a student who then gets it back and sees they earned 15 would naturally think, well, I did 15 out of 20, where, you know what I mean? Like, how, versus what you're saying is that they don't see that frame that way. They see it as, oh, I'm up 15 now. And I'm wondering how you set that frame that way, because to me, I guess I would say that as long as they know, they have perfect information in this case, they know exactly how many points it's worth, they'll do the comparison.
First I'll ask them, I'm like, how much time did you really spend on this? If they're, and I explain that, to get a perfect score means that there are no grammatical mistakes whatsoever. There are no spelling errors or no typos, that, it hits everything that's sort of indicated here. And a lot of them, I have them, I'm not sure if the craft analysis is one, they need to come talk to me about what it is they're going to do ahead of time. So a lot of this is one-on-one feedback. In the very beginning, how I sort of emphasize this is, I hammer it. Don't worry about getting points off, right? You're earning points each time. Look at what you did wrong, right? Because I've written that on there, where, what needs to improve, and do it better next time, right? Learn from that rather than worrying about those 5 points. And it's my job as an educator to point out, right, what those are, to indicate, right, how the work doesn't meet whatever standards I have set. Yeah.
I have another question. What sort of point buffer have you found that works? The amount over 100%?
It doesn't matter. They can go as high as.
No, but you said people were scoring way too many points.
Oh yeah, because it wasn't a curve. It was just too many people who were not A students. You can tell.
Yeah.
We're earning A's in there just by doing a lot. Yeah. And I don't have a problem giving everybody an A in a class, but I just felt that it was being too generous with the assignments, the scoring. And so it was just the number 2s and the number 3s came down. I think the number 4, I didn't have what they initially were. No, but I think the 4 was initially 25 points, and a level 3 here came down, 3 might have been 25, and it came down to 20, right? So just a few points here and there. The level 2 used to be 15, and I brought it down to 12.
I think mathematically, this system, you could theoretically get a 202. in 12 weeks.
Yeah, if you do all.
If you did 2 4s, 2 of each 3, and then
Yeah.
6 2s.
But you're still only getting an A.
That's kind of what I.
And maybe a poster that's signed by someone. But you know what, great, if you want to be like the high scorer, and you're doing that work, you are writing more regularly. You're writing for 12 weeks. Good for you, that's practice, that's learning.
So let's say you have a classroom full of those people, I teach medical school.
Uh-huh.
How would you adjust, or do you have any advice for making this something that doesn't reward just the drive to overachieve, but actually still gets them their heads in the stuff?
Well, I mean, they're not. Are those students going to get a perfect score on every assignment that they turn in? No, so they're not going to get to 202 points to begin with. Is it necessary that not every student get an A in that kind of class?
Yeah, and I can always curve it. I'm more thinking about keeping their head in the learning experience and not just the competition.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question that I would need to think more about. I haven't had, right, these numbers chasers in these classes, and our students are they're high achievers at Butler. They come from upper middle white class families. They are the tops of their schools when they graduate. So these are these kinds of kids, but they get there and, you know, life hits them, and it hits them hard, and they've got other things to do. I mean, I have people who end up with like 33 points, and I'm like, what were you thinking? Right? And so there are ways, right, that I could adjust this. I could demand that they have to, you know, complete a certain number of assignments in the first 6 weeks to encourage them to stay on top. Because some of the other things, right, they did feel lost without deadlines, right? They never felt the pressure to submit work on time. So, right, how do I do that, right? How do I encourage that without imposing too much on them? Because I think it's important that they take responsibility for their learning and not depend on me to be an alarm clock and say, oh, you only have 20 points, it's the 6th week of the class, are you going to do more, are you going to do more? I'm not your mother, I'm not your father, right? You're supposed to learn to be an adult.
At the same time, in structure, there are reminders that your health is low.
Yeah.
And you don't
That's a really good
Your course health needs.
Yeah, we need a health coach. I really like
lost
that
2
concept and
course
think of
part
how to
parts.
sort of.
Kind of building into the question is, if you, I assume you're using Moodle as well as part of this. If you're building
I
this,
don't.
oh, you don't. Okay.
I don't use an LMS at all.
Okay, so that answers that question. How do you keep the idea of the experience? Okay.
Yeah, it's.
How do the student
Go ahead.
How do the student evaluations look pre-gamification and post-gamification?
They really like the class. They feel that they've gotten more out of it. They feel that they have learned more. They liked the freedom. They liked that I treated them as if they were adults and could do this on their own. Some people in the year-long class found it got a bit repetitive by the end, which makes sense to me. And then there are a couple of students who, you know, they like the idea, but I'm not a detail-oriented person, and deadlines would really help me. But overall, they seem to be encouraging.
Have you been able to make the case, and I hate to use the word real world, but the type of writing you're having the students do, since it's smaller chunks, is more the writing we do in the real world? I mean, you know, today we don't do 4-page essays, we do a 7-sentence paragraph in an email.
Yeah.
That maybe this is a better way to prepare students for the writing they will do, and if they feel that way, and if your colleagues feel that way.
I think so. It's, you know, I've had them write, one of the things I have to do is write an author introduction. Students actually introduce our authors when they come as part of this series. It's not me, the faculty member up there. It's a student. So it's a real genre that they are writing for. And you know, I try to emphasize that a little bit, that, you know, and that, you know, if you treat everything like a story in a way, in the right context, and explain that the right way, right? That, you know, 7-paragraph email or whatever it is, 7-line email is a story. What is it you're trying to tell, right? What's the, who are the characters? What happens to them, right? In that story. And so it's, by giving them this variety, it's incumbent upon me as the instructor to indicate what carries over, right, from all of those, what's in common, what is fundamental to the act of writing and communicating to others in all of these different ways. I'm happy to talk more about some of this afterwards, but I do want to sort of hand it over to Amanda so that we don't run out of time for her information.